Hello and welcome everyone to the desk here on Global Television. We're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. We are here on the program with us. It's actually the last for the week. So we're just going to look at some of the big stories that have been developing for the most part of the current week. And then, of course, use that as a basis to do a summary of these developments. Four big issues in front of us. First off, we're now hearing, of course, coming from the federal government, that there's some imminent danger. Some people say, well, just a challenge coming from rivers Niger and Benue. As you already guessed, I suppose it has to do with flooding. And then you're wondering, have we survived the flooding in the northeast, particularly in Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State? Well, hope to find answers to all of these questions tonight on the program. And then, of course, you have a second issue that has to do with the politics within the ranks of the leadership of the frontline opposition political party in this country, that is the People's Democratic Party. And what, well, onlookers and political analysts alike have come to refer to as the Nyesom Wike elements. If you followed the news in the last 24 hours, there's a pretty good chance that you are in the know regarding the fact that Mr. Wike is now said to be in charge of, as politicians call it, the structures of the People's Democratic Party. But we can't have that conversation unless, of course, we set the record straight, providing you perspectives as to how that there has been this long-running tussle between Nyesom Wike and the incumbent governor of his home state, Rivers, talking about Fubara. But then it appears it has even burgeoned beyond River State at this point. But then the People's Democratic Party, as it's always the case with most politicians in this country, would tell you, is a family matter, even though this now has become more of bad blood than it is a family issue. And then we have the third concern tonight on the program we're looking at, which is something that has to do with banditry, particularly in the northwest of Nigeria. Of course, if you have followed security issues in this country in recent times, you are probably familiar with the scale and the preponderance of bandit attacks, whether it's in Zamfara today, Kaduna tomorrow, Katsina the day that follows, and so on and so forth. And just in recent times, the military authorities have placed a bounty on the head of one Bello Turji, who is also said to be wanted by the government of Zamfara State. It's been a long, drawn-out conversation in that regard, but as it stands right now, just a few hours ago, news came through that his boss has now been gunned down, but the military is not resting on its oars. It continues to give a hot chase to the man who has been marked as wanted, as Bello Turji himself. Quite a complicated and disturbing narrative to have, but that's why we are on the desk for you tonight. At some point, we'll turn the search lamp to Edo State, Benin City in particular, where we understand that gladiators, politically speaking, are now in the ring, trying to sell their manifestos and their candidates to the electorates in the great states of Benin and its good people, Edo State. But then the challenge is now that we have seen so much of back and forth, some people say is some sort of supremacy battle between the People's Democratic Party, which is the ruling party in Edo State, by the way, and the frontline opposition party, the All Progressives Congress. We'll let you in on all of these details. As someone who plays a very fundamental, pivotal role within the ranks of the media organization, that is the campaign organization of Dr. Asuelu Ighodalo, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, will join us live via Zoom from out of Benin City tonight to help us have a feel of what it's like on the ground right there in that state. Just to also put on records that elections, well, just a single election, an off-cycle election in that state is just 8 days away. So by this time, next Saturday, it means that INEC and its officials would have been collating results. So it's just a matter of days before a new governor is announced for that state. And by 12th of November, come what may, there will be a new man, as they say, a new sheriff in town. But quickly, let's take a break, everyone. When we return, we will build up the conversation one block at a time for you. Stay with us. All right, everyone, let's begin tonight by talking about an issue that is very concerning regarding the environment. All right, we've seen the flooding and the devastating impact it has had on the people of Borno State. Maiduguri has been for the wrong reason. Lately, families have been devastated, homes washed away. The University of Maiduguri, very prestigious ivory tower in this country, shut down on account of this flooding. And then we also understand that at least one zoo had its animals washed away. And some people also are reporting that there has been an issue of inmates escaping from a prison. So it's just being some sort of quick fire situation. One wrong thing happening right behind the next in that state. My colleague Samuel Odi is on the desk with me tonight. Samuel, I would say it is very magnanimous of you to jump on this show at short notice. How's been your day?
Been good. I can't complain.
Of course, you're still grateful.
Yes, this part of the country is
right.
Dry, though. Despite the fact we're witnessing a few rains from Monday up to date, so a little bit of drizzling. But so far, this part of the country is still very dry. So
right.
we give God all the praise.
Yes. At least nothing has been washed in this part.
Away,
but you see, that's where it becomes concerning. People have seen flood before. They've seen flood where you probably can't go out until maybe after a couple of hours. Yes. You can't leave the house to the office until maybe 10 o'clock, for example. But the case of Maiduguri has not been like that. We've seen so much of devastation in that state. We have seen civil society organizations come out to say, look, federal government should do more. We've seen the Borno State government under the leadership of Professor Zulum also trying to put in its best to ensure that those who have been internally displaced. Now we're hearing over 400,000 of them. Some report says 414,000 of them have been displaced. And then we have seen different reports as to the figures regarding those who have died. Some say 7, others say 30. But without even reading the news, looking at the papers, we can already imagine the scale of devastation that has happened in that state. Just a while ago, you were talking off camera about how that Borno is the home of peace.
Yes.
But people really can't enjoy that peace under this sort of circumstance, can they?
Really, people can really enjoy that peace. And when I was saying Borno is the home of peace, I was born in Borno State. I lived for almost 2 decades in Borno State, and most of these places that have been affected, I have lots of memories. And looking at Borno State and then Maiduguri, the capital of Borno, Kanji Dam and Alo Dam is just like 10 kilometers away from the major city. So this is like a major challenge, and all of this flooding emanated from those angles. And then the zoo and teaching hospital, which is relatively very close to University of Maiduguri. All of those areas are purely residential areas. So the numbers that we're seeing in the papers and the amount of deaths that we're witnessing is obviously clearly not just the real numbers, but we're just going to hope that it's not so outrageous. But looking at this disaster now, we've seen a lot of persons being called for, support to the internally displaced persons, those that lost properties and homes and businesses. Even Monday Market, the biggest Monday market in arguably one of the biggest markets in the northern region of Nigeria, so has been taken over by flood. So a whole lot has actually happened, and then we are hoping to see a swift reaction, not just from the federal government, but the state governments, NGOs, and United Nations at large.
Yesterday we spoke with somebody who happens to be an expert when it comes to informatics and issues around the environment. And one of the things I asked him is, that there have been similar incidents some 30 years ago. And with what we have seen now, it's as if we're taken by storm. It's as if the people of Maiduguri were taken unawares. Does it not show that we probably have not learned a lesson from what happened 30 years before now?
Well, that's obviously what it looks like, because 30 years before now, this issue happened. So there were a lot of issues that came up at that point where proactive measures would have been taken. We are having a conversation off camera where we spoke about who is thinking for Nigeria and who is thinking for certain organizations. So the moment all of these things happen, we have people thinking, and then people from the hydrological sector come around to make emphasis on issues like this. I think there should be swift action, and I think one of the challenge again is the fact that when this happened, the dams were built like just not so far away from the major city. So with that effect now, this is what we're witnessing. It has never happened before, and relatively now a whole lot has been going wrong. Given the fact that we've even seen a little bit of support. Dangote has donated the sum of 2 billion for internal displaced persons, and also seen a whole lot of Nigerians and private institutions coming to the rescue. So all these things now, not just for the now, giving money and then people getting back on their feet. What happens in the next 5 years? What happens in the next 10 years? What measures are being put in place so as not to witness some devastating incident like this? Business has been on hold now. Even the bandits now can't even go ahead and attack people because
they've been limited.
They've been limited. So it's massive. It's a whole lot of challenge. But we're hoping to see that even all of this would, good initiative will be put in place, policies, and then thinking caps will be one so as not to have issues like this in the near future.
Of course, thinking caps should be one. I mean, by everybody, whether the federal government, the state, and all of the agencies that are supposed to at least respond. I mean, they call them first responders for a reason, and all of that. But you see, this conversation about Borno State is supposed to be more like a build-up to the news coming through today from the federal government saying that there's now some, imminent danger regarding some flooding coming from rivers Niger and Benue as well. I mean, you and I have been in this country for a while, at least long enough to understand how much flooding has devastated their nation. With this Borno issue still being in front of us, and this one that has just been announced today, how much more do we need to brace up as a country and as a people?
I think time to brace up is now. What we just need to do is just like get into action, because we have a very big problem in this country, Nigeria, where you're not supposed to throw waste bins. That's where a whole lot of persons go to dispose waste. This is one of the major challenges. And now, flood doesn't knock on your door and tell you I'm coming. If it's coming with full force. If you don't see where to go through, it comes to your doorstep without asking questions. So I think now the environmental ministries, department, they need to just start going to those nooks and crannies of where people tend to dump debris, and then just start cleaning it up first. If it needs warning, they want them to us. Even if the flood is coming, we wouldn't witness a massive disaster like what we're witnessing in Maiduguri right now. So it will just have a cushion of it, and then make amends of finding a way out to cushion all of these effects. Because if these measures are not being put in place, and if actions are not taken at this point, given the fact that warnings are coming out already, I think the whole country would have itself to blame if actions are not being taken. So at this point now, state governors, and we've witnessed lots of flooding maybe in the west and south, but this time around, this year in particular, the north have gotten a largest chunk of the flooding. Kano had its own, Jigawa had its own. Now we are here having concerns about Katsina and Sokoto and the other part. So this should be a wake-up call, because we saw what happened in Kano. It wasn't as devastating as what happened in Maiduguri. Right. So now this is a wake-up call for every other person in the west, in the south, wherever you find yourself. Even if you're not getting warning signs, get into action, and then just creating parts, and then the citizens of Nigeria as well need to follow the law, and then just dispose things wherever they feel is an empty land. So, and just go ahead and dispose things, and then not build houses on waterways. So all of these angles now, it's the challenge that we're facing, and it needs to be addressed by responsible organizations and bodies in charge.
Right, so we must all take responsibility for all of these. Just again, yesterday we talked about how that when it's all said and done, because a lot of River Niger and River Benue will happen. These are not things you want to wish away. It's about you being proactive. It's about you being intentional and deliberate about actions you need to put in place, very critical actions. And then what happens to do clean up when the damage, so to speak, has been done? And that's where most times we seem to have an issue. When those warnings come from NIMET, for example, when those advisories are presented or sent to different states, especially those states that will be directly and significantly impacted, the question is, what do the governors of those states do with those advisories? How many states actually are intentional, even without any flooding advisory, all right, about collaboration with NIMET? They say, we're concerned because we know that we are in harm's way, in a manner of speaking, when it comes to flooding and its devastating impact. Those are areas where we need to be more responsible as sub-nationals, and governors have a lot of work on their hands to do in this regard. We're taking a quick break. When we return our attention to Rivers State, well, not literally, to talk about what exactly is happening with the politics of that state and how one man in Abuja is beginning to be the, well, if you like, the protagonist of this drama that we're seeing within the fold of the People's Democratic Party. All of that will come right after this break. Please stay with us. Partisan politics for a second. When sometime last week we were told that there would be a meeting of the NWC of the People's Democratic Party, inviting some of its frontline leaders, particularly immediate past governor of Rivers State, now Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, to appear before a panel set up by this party. One had thought it was going to be, who knows, maybe a matter of minutes or at most hours before he got suspended. However, when I spoke with some people off the records, they told me, well, they wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Wike did not even, in the first instance, honor that invite. But we know better now. There had been a power tussle within the PDP. It has been a house divided against itself for obvious reasons, and that much is in public domain. But as it stands today, all of this drama has taken another twist, maybe one that is very dramatic and, well, drastic at the same time. There has been the back and forth, people having conversations, debating whether or not it is former Vice President Atiku Abubakar or Nyesom Wike, former Governor of Rivers State, that's in charge of the PDP, that's the de facto leader of the PDP. But some others have also questioned how you can have such a debate in a party that has at least an interim national chairman in the person of Mr. Damagum. But there's also the angle, school of thought, saying that, well, Damagum is loyal to Mr. Nyesom Wike, and as such, he's just going to be, or has been, playing some sort of second fiddle to him. But now we're hearing that the NWC, one way or another, has quote-unquote handed over the leadership of well, the structure, as politicians put it, of PDP in Rivers State to Mr. Nyesom Wike. Okay, so if we talk about drama, there's Dino Melai, for example, right? Yes, maybe there has to be a bout between Mr. Melai and Mr. Wike as to who is more dramatic.
Best actor.
Yes, then we need to choose a venue, we need to decide who will be an unbiased umpire.
Yeah.
But that's a joke. Quite frankly, the thing is, Dino Melai, within the space of a month to 6 weeks, has said very categorically, unequivocally, and pointedly that the PDP is dead. That was his first remark. The second now is saying that the PDP will disintegrate. Of course, he has been suspended already. Wike, on the other hand, has not been suspended. Instead, he has been, as we hear, handed over the leadership of the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State. What does that say about internal politics in Nigeria? I mean, from what you can see.
Well, looking at politics, it's like they always say, someone very close to me will say it's a very, very dirty game. If you're not ready to play dirty, then you shouldn't even bother getting into it. Now, strategies, Wike is a long-term politician, very key stakeholders, maybe the first founders of PDP,
right.
And then he has a very, very strong hold in Rivers State. From what was being said on reports reaching us from way before the election, he single-handedly handed the keys to the city, as of Rivers State, to Fubara, and then they had their rift. So, looking at it now, at some point it came out, a few governors from the south and came out to try to give the power to Fubara, and then looking at the nationals now, they're coming back to look at, okay, Fubara as rather Wike as someone who is really old in the party should be the one financing and leading PDP in Rivers State. So all of this rift and back and forth has been on the verge of the fact that Wike during the 2023 election says he was not going to be loyal to Atiku, and then he contested for the presidential ticket with him, and then delivered. They feel he delivered Rivers State to the APC. So now they feel he's kind of loyal and then, you know, playing both ways. But at this point now, Wike himself hasn't really come out to, like, you know, the bulk, most of the statements that they have been saying about him. But I think that politics is actually very deep, and for Wike to still be the leader, and then looking at from the nationals now, still giving him the keys to, like, be the leader. I think he has a very strong hold in the party, and is actually going to take a very stronger person to be able to, like, take him off that seat, particularly in Rivers State.
You know, that's the irony, Sam. I mean, in Nigeria, since 1999, a year of return to democracy, there has been the argument. In fact, it has become a culture, no longer an argument, that the governor in a state is the leader of the ruling party. So if you go to Edo State, for example, they'll say Governor Godwin Obaseki is the leader of the PDP. Even the chairman of the party understands that much. So it's not even a matter that is subjected to a debate. You go to a place like Ondo State, Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa, who is seeking a second term in office, by the way, and that election is scheduled for some time in November, is the leader of the APC in that state. But how you now have a Mr. Wike who has left office after doing 8 years as governor, still being the leader of the party, is what most people say they can't wrap their heads around. But when you heard first that, well, Dino Melaye, himself a former senator, former member of House of Reps, said that the PDP is dead, and then followed by saying the PDP will disintegrate. What was your assessment of those statements?
You know, those statements, Dino Melaye, like we all know, he's always very funny and, you know, dramatic when he wants to be. So him coming out to say that means he is someone that understands the party PDP. All through his time in office as a House of Rep member, as a senator, he was a PDP member, someone really strong with PDP. So he knows what is actually happening for him to be able to have the momentum and then the boldness to come out and put, you know, an information like that in the public space. But the fact that, you know, would I say due process is not being carried out by the nationals and PDP, and then having the state governors be the leader, which it has, though that's the way it has been since inception, a lot of questions need to be asked, you know, why is this not happening? Then is it that the nationals, the leaders now, the national presidents of those parties now are not acknowledging the fact that, okay, this person is the rightful governor, and then why is his respect not given to him? So looking at Dino Melaye now, I think statement like that obviously calls for suspension, but at the end of the day, when it's time for election, he might figure his way out, a way around back into the party, or deviate to APC, or whichever party he so pleased and feeling that he will be getting the tickets at the platter, and then he will just want to run for another office. So that's what happened in politics, and then most of the time it scares me how these people sleep at night.
Well, we're not medical doctors, neither are we therapists, so we can't do much about their nights because most of them have to attend meetings at night and things like that. But you see, incidentally, Sam, Dino was on the ballots in the last election in Kogi State, and people had said he stood a chance. I don't know what data they were looking at. I don't know on what basis they were making such a projection or even coming to that kind of conclusion. But what we do know is that at that point in time, he was the flag bearer, or if you like, the candidate, as you call it, of the PDP in that election. Of course, he was going to be up against the now governor, then candidate of the APC, right? And people say, well, he stood a chance. After all, the people of Kogi State probably wanted a change in terms of moving from the APC system to PDP. And added to that, they also postulated that, well, Dino Melaye is a loyalist of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and all of that. But of course, we know better now because Dino Melaye didn't win that election. Yeah. So some people are now saying, at what point did Mr. Melaye realized that the PDP was dead? Is it before he cleansed the ticket of the PDP to run for governor on the platform of that party, or was it afterwards that he realized? Because his back and forth too with years of week had started long before the election. And also know that Nyesom Wike and the former vice president have had their, as they call it, in opinion powers, basketballs over time, right? But as it stands today, the PDP, which at some point had been the party that many Nigerians, and in particular politicians, had looked up to drive narratives from the standpoint of opposition, seems to get weakened one thread at a time every day. And now you have a party like Labour also having the internal issue. Dino Melaye says PDP is dead. Says PDP will disintegrate. That's what the PDP. In the Labour, for example, some people say Mr. Julius Abure is hanging in the clouds because as it stands right now, Mr. Peter Obi, who was the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in 2023, you know, in collaboration, so to speak, with the governor of Abia State, Dr. Alex Oti, who, by the way, is the only governor that the party has produced, yes, in recent history, apart from someone like former Governor Olusegun Mimiko from those states, have taken over the leadership of the party. They've appointed, if you like, selected Mrs. Nnamdi Usman, former finance minister in this country, to be the caretaker committee chairman of the party, to lead the party on an interim basis. With all of this, does it not sound or even look like opposition policies in Nigeria is getting weakened by the day? Yeah, and it's actually, from all these points that you've mentioned, it's actually looking very, very weakened. And if they do not get their acts together and then before 2027 I'll have the leadership. I think the problem with these two parties that you rightly mentioned, the problem is from their leadership. Let's start from Dino Melaye. Dino Melaye, I feel he figured out, or his eyes got opened when he lost the election, and then he saw that, okay, the PDP I know went from my days of a House of Rep member and a senator is not the same PDP I know. Right. Given the fact that APC now is more like a very, very stronghold, and they look like they are very, very strong, you know, in peace, and then they know what they are doing. They know their agenda. Better coordinated. Yeah, better coordinated. But some persons have argued that they still have their own rifts that is still going on the background. So we'll have that conversation in another different, probably, edition of this program. But looking at Labour Party now, and then just this week, it was declared that all offices that's tickets are open for anybody. Not exclusive for Mr. Peter Obi or Dr. Alex Oti. Yes. So when that happened, I was like, wait, what's actually happening? Now we're just trying to, like, you know, chest, like they would say, chest that of PDP. Now Labour Party, they are coming with their own again. That means a whole lot is going wrong on the national level, and then with all of this crisis happening, and then those that feel we're more influential than the others are beginning to, like, step in to, like, take action. So if all of this continues like this before, and they don't get it resolved before 2027, then I don't think either of these parties, these oppositions, would be able to stand the well-coordinated APC. It's quite a sad narrative to have. We're taking a quick break shortly, everyone. But you see, what I would like you to note, 2027, you already mentioned that in passing, is in front of us, at least whether we like it or not. Because politicians don't seem to use our kind of calendar. And that raises questions as to if the PDP, the APC, and the Labour Party, because these are the three frontline parties right now, were to go into 2027 the way they are currently constituted. What do you see? Well, I see APC winning the election. Like, that's just what I see, because now, if you must coordinate, it's not, this one doesn't matter who Nigerians vote for, right? Because now you can't have a dysfunctional home and tell me you want to rule over 200 million Nigerians. So you need to put your house in order first, and then before you come out and then read your manifesto to me, and then I will decide if you deserve my vote or not. So now they need to, like, sort out their problems. The Labour Party needs to sort out what their rift is with the leadership. PDP now needs to come decide, okay, is it Wike that is the national president, leader of the party, or he's just a leader in Rivers State, or is he Atiku? You know, now all of these questions now need to be answered internally before they come out. You know, they need to do their laundries in their own house before coming out. Not in public. They shouldn't do their laundries in public. So if all of this continues like this, then I don't think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, if he wants to run for the second term in 2027, should even stress so much for. So to be a walk in the park for him. To just be a walk in the park. Well, 2027 is still a while away from here. But as we just wrap up on this conversation, this particular one now, Fubara was duly elected by the people of River State to be their governor, at least for 4 years. So whether he's going to run again in 2027 is a different kettle of fish altogether. The concern is, how would Nyesom Wike, who, by the way, has not, I mean, is not currently holding any elective office. He's a minister of the Federal Capital Territory, appointed by President Bola Tinubu in that capacity, become the leader of a party such as the PDP in a place like River State? Because many factors will come to mind, and those factors, for the most part, are also in play. For example, is the incumbent governor, and as such, he has a lot, tremendous executive latitude that he can leverage when and where necessary, even within the ambit of the law, for example. All right, and then you're also wondering, is it not possible for Mr. Wike to still be the leader of the party, whether it's in River State in particular or Nigeria at large, while allowing, less, or if you like, minimal bad blood between him and the governor of that state? Because he has said, I remember 21st of August last year, the day these ministers under President Tinubu were inaugurated. He said during a press conference here in Abuja that Fubara is his governor, that once he was made this offer by the president to serve in this capacity, he wrote to his governor. That's what he called Mr. Fubara. I don't know if that has changed, because it's been almost a year and 1 month down the line, because politicians can act more drama than a script can contain and all of that. But my point here is that, do you see this tussle between Nyesom Wike and Governor Siminalayi Fubara abating anytime soon, given what we know today?
Well, given what we know, all of this started even when the caretaker committee was about to be appointed. Those that were appointed by Nyesom Wike when he was in office, were refusing to leave office, given the fact that they remember the law saying that 6 months is meant to be given if an election has not been conducted, and refusing to leave office when the governor has appointed his own caretaker committee. So that's a different kettle of fish. So now, do I see this rift between Nyesom Wike and Sim Fubara living soon? I think their ego is what is playing the part now, and then it's for who would let's bring his own ego down, and then just trying to acknowledge that, okay, yes, this person is my political godfather and this person is my governor. If one person gets to understand that, I think they would have a very quick settlement. But if that doesn't happen, I think Nyesom Wike will keep pushing, and then would keep trying to show Sim Fubara that, yes, I made it possible for you to be on this seat at this hour. So I can also take you out, because during a whole lot of gatherings in River State where Mr. Wike was present, he said during the election, categorically, he made mention of during the election, they are going to vote out people that they don't want to have in the state. So at that point, that was when he was throwing shades, and then directing the speech to Sim Fubara, because of the rifts that they had, and then who signed and who did not sign statement was all over the place. Right, and then of course he talked about ingratitude, that he doesn't like ungrateful people. Right, that's agreement is agreement. That became a song, like a buzzword at the point. Okay, we're taking a quick break. The second, actually, everyone. When we return, we'll talk about banditry, particularly in Zamfara State and generally in northwest of Nigeria, and we'll talk to you about what the latest developments are. Stay with us. Let's talk about insecurity in Nigeria, but in particular as it has to do with Zamfara State. The governor of that state has been talking a lot recently, talking about Governor Dauda Lawal, about the challenge that his government, under his leadership, is having to grapple with all day, every day in Zamfara. From illegal mining to banditry, cattle rustlers, and what have you. But the very disturbing angle to this, perhaps, is the fact that a few kingpins have been identified to be the ones leading
this very deadly brigade, as I'd like to call it. One of those persons, at least in recent times, happens to be a man by the name of Bello Turji. People say he's not only deadly, but he's one who is imposing himself on the people, especially at the community level. Just recently, some news came through that he had imposed some fine in the range of some 30 million on a particular community that they must pay if they want to have their peace and be able to go about their daily business. As a matter of fact, we understand that deadline elapsed just yesterday. Now, there are two versions to the story. One is the version that says that he's imposing that much fine because he said they had killed some of his men, about 11, and then that he says the community will have to pay for that because he believes they were the ones who actually snitched, so to speak, on his men to the military. Another version says, well, that's not what happened. He says in particular that his cattle, all right, had been killed, and then he gives a certain figure, placing a certain amount on each of these cattle, and so on and so forth. As a matter of fact, he says he's from a part of Zamfara State. He belongs there, and as such, he wants to continue to reign supreme. But of course, if you have followed the news in the last few days, you will know that a bounty has been placed on him, particularly by Zamfara State's government. Just today, we are learning that his boss has now been gunned down, but the military is not relenting. Instead, it continues to give a hot chase to Mr. Turji to make him come account for his offenses. But you see, this is again beyond one person. It has become a system. People have speculated about things. They say, well, it's banditry, I mean, it's insurgency that evolved, became banditry, kidnapping, and so on and so forth. No. It's because there's a lot of illegal mining going on, particularly in the northwest of the country. Again, precisely Zamfara State. Others say, well, it extends all the way into Katsina State. But we know, at least we have some idea what has happened in certain states within the northwest in recent times. When we look at this kind of issue, what comes to mind? Because all of a sudden, we don't hear much about Boko Haram and the term insurgency anymore. It is always about bandits and banditry.
Now, most of these challenges, graduated from, like you rightly mentioned, a little bit of insurgency, and then, it's just alarming that a lot of persons have placed all of the kidnapping, banditry, all on hunger. But hunger doesn't mean it's an avenue for you to carry guns and then go around killing people and making sure that people don't have peace in their own communities and go about their daily businesses. So I would say that a whole lot needs to be done, and then having people like this, arrested, and if not arrested, maybe have a sniper do what he's being trained and being paid for on a monthly basis by the federal government. So all of these angles now is what we're looking at. So banditry is something that has been on for almost a decade, and then the bedrock started from Boko Haram, where the insurgency started with their leader, Mohammed Yusuf, who got killed, and then we started hearing names like Shekau, coming up on a daily when this Shekau gets killed and that Shekau comes up. So all of these things now, Zamfara is on the hot map at this point because we're not witnessing so much from Maiduguri for a while now, given the fact that it's Boko Haram that's been based in Maiduguri. So looking at this other part of the country, Zamfara states, we have a lot of mining going on there, and most of the times now they complain that the citizens of Zamfara, that these foreigners that come to mine don't even the damage that they do, they don't tend to pay them for it, and then when they make payments to the government don't get back to the community, and then they end up suffering. So during most of the times elections, you tend to give this person's hands and not collecting them back. So automatically, someone that is hungry and not having food and having arms, automatically this person is going to devise means for his or herself to be able to fend for family and take care of his community. But now it's graduating from the fact that it's no longer the usuals that we see on the highway, people just struggling for food. Now it's about taking lives and then demanding a huge sum of ransom, making the community unhealthy for people. Going down to the fact that the government needs to pay more attention to this, because a lot of persons have argued that banditry, kidnapping, and all of that is political. So I think the government can be able to handle this, the security agency, if they are ready and set to like cover all of this, I think they would be able to do it, given the fact that they've gone for peacekeeping in different parts of the world and come back with amazing results. So I don't know what is making this angle later this long.
It's interesting. Recently, Governor Lawal, that's the governor of Zamfara State, said, look, the federal government has to step in big time. I mean, do more than just condemning the killings and the maiming happening in the north, in this case, particularly Zamfara State. People have said, if we could go as far as bringing Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya under former president Muhammadu Buhari, if we could do all of that, if we could pick up certain people you thought were off the radar, under circumstances that you never would have expected, whether by the DSS, by the military, or by the police. How come we are not able to do the same thing with all of these criminal elements, parading themselves as leaders of some insurgency group, banditry group, and so on and so forth? It has expanded now to almost like a sector, like an industry. I mean, we do not have figures, we're not able to run through numbers in terms of how much has been collected by way of ransom in the last 1 year alone, whether it's even the fringes of Abuja or off northwest, northeast, and so on and so forth. But we do know that is either we're talking about insurgency or the conversation is around banditry. The next day is about some unknown gunmen kidnapping and so on and so forth. Because as it stands right now, it's almost as if it is spontaneous, it is sporadic. Borno, of course, at the point, the epicenter of insurgency, all thanks to Boko Haram, is dealing with its own problems. And then Zamfara is having to face its own issues, triggers to illegal miners and the challenges of banditry and so on and so forth. Is it realistic, I mean, given where we are today, to depend 100% on the military to fix this problem?
The military can fix this problem because they're highly trained, and most of the time they even get a whole lot of admissions. A chunk load of the budget goes to the military for security, and then obviously they have the ability, given the fact that you actually mentioned under the administration of Muhammadu Buhari, we are able to bring down Nnamdi Kanu down to Nigeria for him to face the law. So this is rightly happening in Nigeria, not outside Nigeria. So we don't need to use those resources we used outside to go handle this. We can handle this with what we have here. We have the DSS, we have the Nigerian army, we have vigilantes, police officers. So we need to all these security agencies need to collaborate. The federal government, like you mentioned, need to step in, not just condemning. You can condemn from now till tomorrow, and if actions are not being taken place, the same thing will keep happening, and then you sit from the comfort of your office, have a press briefing and condemn, which at the end of the day the problem will not be solved. Sending palliatives and then money is not going to solve the problem. The security agencies and the federal government need to step in for swift response. Let there be action taken to be able to, fish out all of these people involved, with all of this criminal acts going on in this country. So if we also need the intervention of foreign communities, I think it should be deployed so as to get the result that we need. Because now we're facing a high rate of food insecurity in Nigeria. Food inflation is at 40+%. A whole lot of farmers can't go back to farm because these bandits now have taken over their communities. And then if you're farming, you're automatically farming for the bandits, and then they'll just take the crop. So, or you even lose your life. People are scared to go about their businesses. So a whole lot of crisis is actually being, labeled on the insecurity being faced in most of the parts of this country. So I think it's high time that the federal government needs to step in and not just condemn from the comfort of their offices. I think they need to get into swift action, go into those nooks and crannies, those communities where these guys are, fish them out. We have the equipment, I'm very sure of it. We have the manpower, and then we have the skill set required to be able to tackle situations like this. So I think they need to get into it on 100% to be able to cut out all of this insecurity.
100% or nothing. Break, everyone, but the program is not yet 100% until we return behind this break to wrap it up for you. To stay with us. Dr. Dele Alake is the Minister of Solid Minerals Development under the leadership of President Bola Tinubu. A few months ago, he appeared before federal lawmakers and painted a very vivid picture of what the minerals sector has been like before he came into office and now that he's in office. There were several talking points, but one of the highlights that he stick out at that point was when he said that powerful Nigerians are behind illegal mining in Nigeria. Now, I'm not so sure if we furthered that conversation from that point on, for example, asking about who are these powerful Nigerians? Do we have their names? Do security agencies or law enforcement agencies have their names? Are we following that lead? Or we're just talking about it for the record so we know exactly what it is? I'm not so sure an average discerning Nigerian needs to know that there are powerful people behind illegal mining and indeed the insecurity on all fronts that this otherwise peaceful country has come to know in the last 10 to 15 years. As it stands today, it also is very clear that we are either not doing enough to ward off insecurity, whether it's in Zamfara today, Borno tomorrow, or Kaduna the day that follows. However, one thing is clear. It is the fundamental responsibility of government to ensure security of lives and property. Obviously, there's nothing we can do about past governments. However, as it stands today, President Bola Tinubu is the president of this country and is the commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Some people say he's now, on account of being the president, doubling as the father of this nation. So we would look forward to seeing fatherhood and fathering happen going forward. But before that happens, we must be able to deal with the flooding and its impacts in Borno State, particularly Adamawa, the capital city of that state. We must be able to address insecurity in Zamfara and all of the states around that belt in the northwest of Nigeria. And then finally, we must also understand that no single person is bigger than a political party or indeed a nation. So there must be a leadership that is led by example, that must call individuals who have the tendency to overstep their bounds to order one way or another. But again, that won't happen until there's exemplary leadership of some kind. I'd like to say a big thank you to Samuel Odi for coming on the program.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
Great. I don't know what leaving is, everyone. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again.